The game of golf. In its basic form, it's a very simple game. Take a club, swing it at a little white ball, hit the ball from a starting point to a finishing hole in as few strokes as possible. It seems quite effortless. But this so-called very simple game has challenged the physical, emotional, and mental capacities of some of the world's best. It's been a passion, and oftentimes an obsession of players dating as far back as the 1400s. And it hasn't changed today. Competition on the greens is intense. Competition in the boardrooms, even more so. The business of golf has become so fierce that this once gentleman's pastime has evolved into a cutthroat industry. Creating a new and better club, a better driver, wedger, putter, can add billions of dollars to the bottom line for a golf company, and it can add millions to a player's coffer. So the aim is to win at all costs. Get the latest first. But coming up with a successful new design is pretty improbable for most. Not for lifetime PGA member Clark Collins. His concept and design of a perfect putter evolved from a little bit of common sense mixed in with a lot of determination, hard work, and perseverance.
Well, it all started in my garage. Simply, I took a putter that I found in the corner that had been given to me, and I knew it was a terribly unbalanced putter. My wife was a school teacher. She had some modeling clay that was on a shelf, and I took some modeling clay and I went over to my fishing tackle box and I grabbed some sinkers and I started fooling around. And next thing you know, I came upon something that really was exciting.
That something exciting was the beginning of a revolutionary new concept in golf. Collins' putter was virtually the exact opposite of all other putters then in the market.
And after grinding for thousands of hours in my garage and drilling holes in different places to put the shaft in, I came up with something that I thought was very unique. And it produced extremely well. My first tournament that I played in with it, I happened to be the low pro. And this was quite startling to me because it had lowered my average score about 4 or 5 shots immediately. But what was most impressive is when Richie Bassett and I both finished first and second in 2 of the biggest tournaments in the state of Florida. And the people were all over the putting green wanting to use our putting green, or use our putter, then that was very impressive. That's when the Callaway salesman came up and said, "Can I see this?" And that was the start of that.
That was the start of something big. Callaway golf salesman Kerry Keena was so impressed with Clark Collins's putter that not only did he want to buy one for himself, he called Richard Helmstetter, Vice President of Research and Design at Callaway, touting its unique design and effectiveness.
A few days later, I got a call from Richard Helmstetter, and he more or less enlightened me to his feelings about putters. And I had pointed out to him that I had three patents in the works. They were patent pending. And he said, well, frankly, there's nothing left to be patented anymore in putters. We have the finest engineers and scientists in golf, and frankly, you probably ought to stay home because there's nothing, we got the best. And frankly, on the other side of the coin is we can break every patent there is. So I thought that was kind of strange.
Strange, especially given the fact that Clark had not pursued any business dealings with Callaway. Callaway came after him. So thinking any relationship with Callaway was dead, Clark continued to perfect his putter. But the potential marriage with Callaway wouldn't die. In October 1995, Clark was again brought to Callaway's table. This time, his friend Pat Riley called Callaway's head of sales, Bruce Parker.
And Bruce Parker said, look, I've heard some good things about your putter. Can you be out here for a demonstration, put on a presentation to Ely Callaway and myself and the staff?
Which is a very rare event to be able to get into the halls of Callaway and actually make an appearance before their executive committee. May happen once a year, if that.
Even Don Dye, then Callaway's president and chief executive officer, agrees.
But it was very rare that anybody got inside Callaway with an outside idea. This was an exceptional event in my judgment, and I can only think of 2 occasions.
An exceptional event, no doubt because Callaway recognized Clark Collins's putter was an exceptional design.
Oh, well, they were very excited about this. No one had ever seen anything like this. And on top of it, they were making putts. Once I explained to them how to use the putter.
So impressed with Clark's distinctive concept, E. Lee Callaway, Callaway's chairman and CEO, asked Paul Runyan, his most trusted advisor, a guru of the short game, and a genius with putters, to test Clark's putter.
He came over to E. Lee Callaway and myself, and he made a statement. He said, "Mr. Callaway, this is something very, very unique." He said, "But I haven't figured it out yet. Clark, please tell me what exactly is different about this putter." And I said, "Well, what really makes this thing unique," I said, "is I put the weight of the putter further back away from the face. That stops the fluctuation. When you stroke the putt, because the weight of the putter is so much farther back than all other putters on the market, it's a stabilizing effect. So when you literally hit a ball, there's no fluctuation." And he said to E. Lee Callaway at that time, he said, "You know, I have been looking for this all my life, E. Lee," he said, "and here it is right in front of me, and I couldn't have figured it out." He said, "You really have something here, Clark." E. Lee Callaway said to Paul Runyan, "Paul, at your age, if you haven't seen anything like this in all of your lifetime," he said, "this really must be something special." And everybody laughed about it, because, you know, Paul Runyan was about almost 90 years old at that time.
There was validation after validation from golf experts that Clark Collins had something special. The performance of his was superior to any putters Callaway had ever seen. Even Callaway's own designer was impressed with the club's performance.
I had positive comments, and I thought it tracked well. The pendulum action of the putter is very different from other putters. And it is where the shaft is connected to the head in the shaft design, and it's different. And I thought that was good.
E. Lee Callaway had heard all he needed to. He wanted Clark's exclusive design, and he was ready to make a deal. Clark was ready to deal, but he was intent on handling the negotiations the right way.
And I said, "Mr. Callaway," I said, "I've signed all these other forms. Could you please sign mine for me? I have mine. My attorney asked me to make sure that I have it signed when I'm out here and don't come back without it." And he said, "Oh, Clark," he said, "don't worry about that document." He said, "We're buying your putter company." And I said, "Well, I'm supposed to get it signed." He said, "Look, my handshake is my bond. We're buying this company from you." And he said, "You can go home and tell your wife how proud she can be of you, that we're going outside our company for the first time to do a deal with someone that wasn't an inner circle of our company."
On a handshake and a promise, Clark trusted E. Lee Callaway and left several of his putters at the testing facility. It seemed, at first, he had good reason to trust them. As promised, Richard Helmstetter followed up with Clark the very next day to discuss the terms of the deal. They talked, and Clark accepted Callaway's offer. So he waited for the promised contract, and he waited, and he waited, and he called, and he wrote, and he waited some more. Finally, after several weeks of getting no response from anyone at Callaway, a semblance of a contract arrived.
The only problem with the contract is that it wasn't what we agreed upon. It came in, there wasn't really anything that was the same as what we talked about. He changed the agreement, or someone changed the agreement, from $35,000 to $25,000. Then they changed the royalty from 5 to 7%. It went down to just plain $2 per putter. And then the third thing, they put a cap on it of $1 million.
Don Dye, common practice, he states, was to arbitrarily change contracts in spite of what was agreed to. They wanted to take Clark's case, in this case, Clark's idea, produce it, and take all the money and give him virtually nothing and what they were going to give him, Clark would have been paid off in 6 months, and Callaway would have had this for the next 20 or 30 years.
My view is that the negotiations and the contractual obligations of the company are ultimately my responsibility. Even if somebody had agreed to other terms with Mr. Collins, if I didn't think they were appropriate, I would not try to do an agreement to fit within that. I would be putting the terms that I thought were appropriate, because nobody else had the responsibility for the ultimate long-term viability of the company more than I did. And the fact that somebody else made a stupid deal or made a sweetheart deal or something like that, I had to independently make my judgment as that.
After weeks of trying to seal the deal that was agreed upon and not getting any return phone calls, Clark got pretty fed up. He arranged and confirmed a meeting with Ely Callaway and Don Dye at a tournament in Orlando. Clark showed up. Dye and Callaway stood him up. So Clark went to Callaway's booth and issued a stern message to Kerry Keena.
I want you to go to the fax machine, send a fax, and demand that my putters be sent back immediately. I do not want to have anything to do any further with Callaway.
The demand for the return of his putters, all phone calls and correspondence, went ignored for several weeks. Then, one day,
out of the blue, my putters showed up. No letter, no thank you, nothing.
At this point, Clark was through with Callaway. In the meantime, in 1996, Clark Collins and Pat Riley formed Perfect Putter Company in order to manufacture and market the perfect putter. While exhibiting the putter at golf shows around the country and receiving rave reviews, Pat met up with Ely Callaway in Las Vegas in 1997. They invited Pat to the company's testing area so they could, once again, test Clark's putters.
I had lunch with him, showed him the putters, explained the concept where all the weight was directly behind. If this were a traditional putter, the weight would be behind the ball. And what happens when the putter comes forward, it can twist because the shaft is powered from right here. It comes in here like this. And when it moves into the ball and strikes it, it can twist. Well, with Mr. Collins' principle, he's taken all the weight from here and here, and he's done the exact opposite. He has taken it and put it exactly behind the ball, which would be right here. So now what you have is you have a beautiful flowing pendulum motion, and the putting mechanics and the putting results are fantastically superior.
Pat Riley had left a few putters out there at the test facility, and within 2 or 3 weeks I received a phone call from a fellow by the name of Tim Gillis, who was the Western sales manager for True Temper. He called me and said, do you have any idea of what has happened with your putters? I said, no. He said, they have broken the records 3 days in a row out here, and Callaway's going to be calling you to be buying your company. And I said, no, I'm not going to hold my breath on that deal.
But Pat Riley wasn't worried.
And I said to him, Pat, they pulled a fast one on me the last time. I don't trust them. He said, Clark, these are my close friends. You just trust me. We can do it. I listened to Pat on the telephone with Richard Helmstetter. Richard Helmstetter said to him, close your company down, get rid of your salespeople. This is a done deal. And I told Pat at this time, this doesn't sound right. I said, we need a contract, we want some money, something's got to be a little more efficient than the last dealings I had with Callaway. He said, no, Clark, you're a worrywart. You don't have to worry. These are an honorable bunch of people. These are my friends.
Honor amongst men meant nothing to the people at Callaway. Greed and dishonesty were the principles they stood by. And the two people who trusted them the most got the shaft. At first, Clark and Pat had every reason to believe Callaway was on the up and up this time. There were letters like this one, where Clark expressed excitement over the deal. October 16, 1997, Clark writes to Richard Helmstetter, Dear Dick, just got off the phone with Pat Riley. That's just great news. We are both very happy that you like the putters, and they now hold all the putting records at Callaway. I personally thank you for bringing this all together. I am sending you 16 putters to work with per your instructions.
If we didn't have a deal, wouldn't at one point in there, wouldn't somebody have sent a letter and said, what are you talking about? Why are you sending us these putters? We don't have any, just what are you doing? Why are you saying great news? Why are you saying thank you for putting all this together? It's very clear what Helmstetter was up to. He wanted to steal the idea for Callaway.
I made something like 48 putters for Richard Helmstetter, because that was his request. I even made a couple of putters with their initials on them as more or less commemorative items for these people. And I sent a couple of page letter to Callaway and all the material on how to make the putters, all our intellectual papers that we had, all our propaganda to help them get their cost features down on how to make the putter. Because Pat had assured me that I could trust them on this deal. So I did it.
He says, and in addition, he says, do not sell any more putters out there. Shut the company down. You can consider yourself officially acquired, and we don't want any more putters in the marketplace because we're going to work on this really hard, and we don't want any more putters out there. So he said, great, that's fine. What's another 6 months?
This is just what Callaway had been waiting for. They had gotten the valuable trade secrets from Clark. They had gotten them to close down their company. They had several putter heads at their facility to copy. With all of this in their hands, without a signed deal, it was the kiss of death for the perfect putter company.
And I thought they were my best friends in the entire golf business.
For Don Dye and Richard Helmstetter, friends and business didn't mix. Sure, they talked a good game, but in the end, their words were worthless, as evidenced by Richard Helmstetter vacillating on the deal points.
And he said, well, we had a meeting about it, and what the deal is going to be is just what you want, $350,000 to $400,000. You can have your 7%, but he says, we're going to put a cap on royalties, though. We really want a cap on royalties, but because it's you and you're so special, we're going to make it $3 to $4 million. And that's a lot of money. But it's also, if it sells well, maybe 18 months or 2 years worth of putter production. And it's something Clark conceived. And they're going to take and they're going to make ladies putters and junior putters and left-handed putters. And they're going to make putters in different colors. They're going to make fluorescent colors, black putters, black discs on there, white discs. They're going to really work this thing really hard. And they're going to make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And they just wouldn't do the right thing. I said, Dick, we're not going to do it. I don't want a cap on royalties. But what I will do is that I will, after 100,000 putters, on the first 100,000 putters, we'll do 7%. But after that, because we want you to sell lots and lots of putters, we'll do 3.5% to 4% royalty. We'll cut the royalty in half. But we don't want to limit, and we don't want a cap on royalties, but we'll make it we'll double your upside. We'll cut it right in half. You'll make a lot more money. He said, well, that sounds pretty good. We'll do that. And I said, okay, great. So now I've got the deal we want again. Okay, this time I said, Dick, is this a final, which is a golf term like, this time it's done deal? He says, yes, it's a final.
The only thing final about this deal is that Callaway had finally gotten all the confidential information needed to steal the design of the perfect putter. Now it was time for them to pull the plug on Collins and Riley. But they needed a clever way to do it, and Dick Helmstetter came up with one.
And Dick said, who's this Collins guy? He called out here and talked to Roger or somebody out here, and he said I should be negotiating with him and not you, because he invented the putter. And I said, boy, that doesn't sound like Clark. Clark is one of the nicest people I've ever met. He said, well, I don't know, but that's what he did. He went behind your back and called out here. And I said, no, that doesn't sound like Clark. And he says, well, we're really nervous about it. And I said, well, Dick, would you like me? I'll call Clark right now and have him make up a letter and fax it to you and send it to you stating that I have the power to negotiate a deal. And he said, yeah, go ahead and do that.
I said, Pat, why in the world would I ever make such a stupid phone call like that when in fact I didn't trust him in the first place and the deal had already been struck with you? Why would that happen? He said, well, they're not going to talk to us anymore unless you sign this letter and send it off. So I signed the letter off, had it notarized, and sent it off.
Again, said, did you get the letter? And he said, yeah, but he says, this guy really made us nervous, and he says, I don't think we're going to go through with a putter deal. We don't like, he makes us real nervous. So I am really furious. I had this wonderful thing all put together with my friend Dick Helmstetter, and my friend Bruce Parker, and my friend Ely Callaway, and the Callaway people that I spent millions of dollars with. And all of a sudden, they're pulling this stuff. So but at that point, I still trusted them. I thought Clark had really called. So I called Clark. I said, what are you doing? How could you just screwed up the whole deal? Clark goes, Pat, I didn't call. And I don't believe him, because my friends that I've known for 10 years said he did. And it turned out Clark's mad at me because he knows I'm friends with him and they're friends with me. He thinks I worked out a deal on the side with them that I'm going to get something and he's going to get left out in the lurch for whatever it was. So that really led to the relationship of Clark and I totally deteriorating.
Now, we have closed our company down, got rid of all of our salespeople, and I canceled the lease on our building of 2,000 square feet. So now we're dead. And all because we trusted Callaway.
It was a trust that cost Clark Collins and Pat Riley their company, potentially billions of dollars, and their friendship.
So they caused a major rift between the two of us. We didn't know that both of us had been taken by Callaway.
Callaway strung Clark and Pat along long enough to copy the perfect putter design. They stole Clark's idea, concept, design, and intellectual property, and came up with virtually an identical putter. They call it the Odyssey White Hot 2-ball putter. When Clark and Pat saw it, they couldn't believe it.
I was shocked. It was our putter. It was our putter. You could see it. You could see the whole shape of all the mass behind the ball. Mr. Collins' whole unique design concept right there with a Callaway name on it, called the White Hot 2-ball. The two discs do nothing. You could put a white line on there, you could put black lines on there, pink. There's nothing to do with anything. It's strictly cosmetics.
I kind of had a feeling down deep, at some point Callaway is going to steal my putter design, and sure enough, it took a little while for them to do it, but they did it.
And the sad part about it, Callaway was so blatant about it.
This here is an original that I picked up at the company over in Tampa. From this particular putter came. This is the rough. This starts to become the final product. Now what's very interesting about this, if you look carefully, you're going to notice that this goes straight across here and then drops down on an angle. This was, in our original design, a mistake. It was not supposed to be put in there, but the company put it in. This was intentionally to be flat, but you notice the angle is the fact that this angle right here is the same in the Odyssey 2-ball putter.
So when the machinery they have, they simply copied Mr. Collins' putter. And when they did, they copied that mistake that we put in. It was on the top. And the top of theirs bends just where ours bends, and ours bends for no reason other than we didn't have a lot of money. So we were always kind of, we just look at each other and go, man, it's a good thing nobody sees that. Well, as it turns out, it was a good thing because we caught Callaway with our hand right in the cookie jar, and they can't get it out.
Okay, I want you to take a look at these and see that these are virtually identical. Now, what I'm going to do is show you something that I have done just to show that how close a copy this is to my putter. If I take that off, you will notice that underneath it really was a 2-ball putter. If I take the face off, there's the other part of the putter. Now we take the wings off, and guess, there it is. So you can see it started looking exactly like the perfect putter, and now it's turned into, I guess you could call a morphosis of the two-ball Odyssey putter. When you take a look at these two putters, they perform identical or virtually the same.
Clark Collins and Pat Riley weren't the only cheerleaders of the perfect putter. Golfers from around the world swore by it. Many played with Clark during development and saw the putter through its various transitional stages, and today they wouldn't trade it for any other type.
It was a couple of years ago that I come in, and when I moved up here 2 years ago, and I'd come in and said, Clark, I'm just putting horrible, I got to have some help, and he helped me with a little putt, a little teaching, and then he gave me a putter, a perfect putter. And in the next 2 years, I probably won 10 tournaments, went out the next week, won the Florida PGA Senior Open. Just had a great year, and I've just putted great the last couple of years with the putter.
While the mallet head putter had been around for decades, there's never been one where the weight is positioned in the back. Clark Collins's perfect putter is the forerunner of this type.
I mean, he is the gentleman who invented the perfect putter. He is the one who suggested we need more weight behind the face. So I think most of it came from Clark, and people were just, what would you say, spinning off on his idea, but trying to make it look different than this one so they wouldn't have a problem.
In a few short months, the Odyssey White Hot 2-ball putter became the fastest-selling putter in the world, and its success has continued since its introduction in January 2002. Dr. Willard Morey is an expert in computational physics who measured the face width of 153 putters and compared them to the perfect putter. After computing the face widths of each putter and calculating the numbers, Dr. Morey concludes that the probability of Callaway randomly coming up with the same design is virtually impossible.
Probability of being within the thickness of 5 sheets of paper across the face width was about 0.5%. And we know from other measurements that the weight is virtually the same. The length of the putter, the thickness of the putter are the same. And we haven't done the statistics, but if the statistics are the same within 5 sheets of paper, no reason why the probability wouldn't be the same. If we assume that they are the same, at 0.5% each, the probability of all 4 being randomly the same is 1 out of about 6 trillion. It's extremely unlikely.
Should this case go to trial, the jury will hear from economist Dr. James McClave. Dr. McClave will testify as to the losses suffered by Perfect Putter Company, Clark Collins, and Pat Riley. The Odyssey White Hot 2-ball putter has been an extremely successful putter. If it were the only product of a standalone putter company, rather than being under the umbrella of Callaway, it would be in the top 3 putter companies in the world, if not the top company in terms of sales. According to information provided by Callaway in Discovery, in the first 18 months, January 2002 to July 2003, the Odyssey White Hot 2-ball was available in the market. 840,731 units were sold for gross sales of $111,624,608 and gross margin of $65,744,047. Even without factoring in a modest growth factor, conservative calculations indicate that by now, Callaway has likely sold over 1,354,500 units, with gross sales of $179,838,432 and a gross margin of $105,922,760. In its 10Q and 10K reports, Callaway has attributed its phenomenal growth in the putter sector almost entirely to the success of the perfect putter. In many quarters, the growth over the same 3-month period 1 year earlier exceeded 30, sometimes 40%. The Odyssey White Hot 2-ball putter was made possible by Callaway's access to and retention of the perfect putter. The scope and depth of this blatant fraud and deceit by Callaway Golf Company, Callaway Golf Sales, Odyssey Golf is almost unimaginable. But it is real. What the defendants have done is illegal, and compensation must be paid to Perfect Putter, Clark Collins, and Pat Riley.
Somebody takes a long time in research and development and developing a product, and you see these people come in and they you know, a week after it's on the market, you see somebody clone it and come out with it. And in the interim, they make money on someone else's idea. Arrogance. Total arrogance. Thinking that the little guy doesn't have the resources to mess with the big guy.
The total damages in this case are enormous. Given the plethora of evidence which shows that Callaway deliberately stole the trade secret concepts, designs, and procedures created by Clark Collins, a verdict in the hundreds of millions of dollars is not unreasonable against a company whose value is in excess of $1 billion. The defendants will argue that the White Hot 2-ball putter originated from the Rossi putter and the Dave Pell's 3-ball putter. But the multiple pieces of evidence are irrefutable.
We have a digital printout here of a scale, and this will point out that we come to a total of 330 grams. We take that, and now we'll put this one on, and you will see that it's 330 grams. Point I'm making is that we have a number of issues here of where there's consistency, that we have the width of the putter the same, the length of the putter the same, the weight of the putter the same, and the depth. On top of that, we have that little spot where the shaft, where the top here goes on an angle and verifies the fact that they copied even the design.
We were the only ones that knew it. There were no two other people in the world that knew about that one mistake that we had in it. But Callaway goofed. They copied it, in addition to all the other things they've done. That little thing right there just says guilty.
It's time for Callaway to do the right thing. As each day passes without a resolution, the amount of damages in this case continues to rise. The defendants can settle this case now. It's in their interest to do so. If they choose to face a jury of their peers, the verdict will surely result in damages that could cost the defendants hundreds of millions of dollars. Our demand for settlement is $225 million.